Hello everyone, I'm Tara Jones and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about straightness. I personally think that keeping your horse straight and keeping your body straight and aligned is one of the most difficult things to do on a horse. Not to mention when you're just generally walking every day, just to keep your body straight and aligned. We have a lot of different ways that we try to keep our body aligned, and even when we're out of alignment, some of us visit chiropractors, etc. So when we're working with our horses, it's very important to understand the definition of what straightness really is. So my definition of straightness, because I've heard many across the board, and when I think of straightness, I think of an aerial shot above my horse's back that's showing all 54 vertebrae from tail to between the horse's ears at the poll. I think of all of those vertebrae staying in a very straight line, and even the spacing in between each vertebrae is stretched evenly. So there isn't any vertebrae coming together, there isn't any scrunching of those vertebrae or curving in either direction unless I ask the horse to do so, and supple and bend laterally. So when we talk about straightness, we're talking about longitudinal balance, the balance from back to front or front to back. And when we ride, we're always striving to get the horse to balance more weight on the hind feet as opposed to on the front end, how they naturally come with 70% of their weight bearing in that area. So today I'm going to show you a very simple, easy technique, plain as day exercise. But there's many ways that you can mess it up. So as we look behind me, I have just 2 jump standards, which you don't even have to use. Those are just good visuals. That's going to be my entry point into the hallway or the corridor of poles that I placed on the ground. So once I go in the barn and I get a horse and I saddle that horse and I step up onto that horse, I'm going to really concentrate on keeping the horse's hips right behind the shoulders and the shoulders right behind the ears. So as the horse is going through the chute, I want hips following shoulders, shoulders following ears. And that way I can align my hips, keep my hips square with my horse's hips and my shoulders square with my horse's shoulders. Even head tilt in us as a rider will create head tilt through our horse's body. Think about it. Anytime we drop a hip, anytime we curve at our shoulders or bend through our rib cage, unintentionally, we're going to bear weight in different places for our horse. If we are unbalanced, then our horse is most certainly going to be unbalanced because they must get underneath of us to be able to bear weight, carry our weight, and to keep all of us standing up. So as we go through this exercise, and I talk more about straightness, keep in mind when you ride your horse, how straight are you? Straightness is a very hard exercise to accomplish, but necessary on any horse. I'm just going through the prerequisite checklist, making sure that Loops is not going to lean on either leg, lean on either rein, and I just am checking to make sure that my stirrups are facing forwards towards 12 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and stand up and sit down a few times to ensure that my lower leg is underneath my body. If I can't stand up and balance, then my legs are too far forward or too far back. This is just a good checklist for each rider to go through to make sure that we are in fact balanced before going through this exercise. Now I have a riding crop in my hand, and I'm just showing you that you want to make sure that your hips are in alignment. So you're not leaning or tilting in one direction or another, and also that your shoulders are not leaning or tilting in one direction over another, that you're not twisting through your body, or that you don't have any weird head tilt. When you reach up over your head, you're going to engage your core. So this also helps with your seat to make sure that your seat is even on your right seat bone and your left seat bone. As I step up to the jump standards, you want to make sure that the horse's ears are basically level and even with no head tilt for them either. So now we're going to start this exercise, and I'm carrying a crop just in case I need to tell Loops to go forward. I'm going to aim to go right down the center, and you can see there what I'm going to refer to as left and right, or as we are looking at the camera. So you could see there that the right side was a little bit more going towards the pole to the right. So as we're coming through, we're going to practice this exercise again. Now I'm a little bit more down the center, but there you can see she favored the right one more time. So as you keep walking through this exercise, start to think about the hind feet following the shoulders and the shoulders following the ears. Keep your hips square and try to keep your shoulders square. And as you walk through it, there was a little bit more down center line. I want to make sure that Loops is not pushing or leaning on either of my legs or my calves, because then it's as if she's always constantly leaning. If I leave any leg cue on, I'm going to help her to try to lean on me for balance. I don't want to be the kickstand. So remember, try to keep your lower leg just breathable. It can have a little bit of contact, but make sure that you're not pushing or holding the horse up. And as we're walking through again, you can see it's getting a little better. Now, me personally, I have an asymmetry issue through my left leg. So most of the time when I look down, I have to go ahead and fix my left foot in the stirrup because I tend to turn my toe out. So this is something that I always struggle with. Now I'm going to show you incorrectly when a rider leans with their hip. We're going to start by me leaning to the right. And you can see how her right hip stepped more towards the pole. So this becomes very interesting because our horses generally follow suit with what we're doing. They can't balance unless we're balanced. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to think of leaning, and you can see that she's pushing towards the left side of the pole because of my left shoulder dropping. Now again, we're talking about us looking onto the camera. So now I'm going to show you shoulder tilt. Now obviously I'm over exaggerating this, but any little tiny increment of somebody dropping their shoulder is going to result in, look at how much she steps towards the pole. So this applies to a lot of people when they're riding circles or when they're doing serpentines or changes of direction. Oftentimes they end up leaning or tilting. Now we have head tilt. So I'm just bringing my head to the right, and you can see that Loops started to drop her right ear slightly. It's always amazing to me when I see what the horse does because of what we do. And here again, wow, that's really crooked. So you can see that her head tilt, as I was pointing out there, ears are on level. So this is going to result eventually in a weird flexion in her cervical vertebrae. So you really want to make sure that you don't start to initiate head tilt from your own body to the horse. So make sure when you're riding, if you had a book balanced on your head, you'd be able to keep that book balanced. Make sure that your visor of your helmet is level and even. All of those little tricks will help. This is where a rider turns their toe out. So this is another common error that I see. Not as big, but you can see that she is really starting to curve her body, and that's not what we're looking for in a straight line. So one of the hardest things for a rider to do is to make sure that they can first ride a straight line before they can influence the horse to bend. Now I'm showing you with the right foot looking on. If my toe is turned out to the right, it affects my shoulder, it affects the rein, and you can see that she was bending a little bit through the straight line exercise. That's not what I'm looking for. So here I'm going to start from a little bit further back, and I'm going to try to help her to get back to a straight line and erase all of the little mistakes that I just did. So I'm just making sure I have my reins where she's not leaning. I'm checking my balance once again, checking my feet to make sure that they are going straight through the stirrup that is facing forward towards 12. I'm going to walk up to the jump standards, keep her hip following her shoulder and her shoulder following her ear. Look at how crooked she got just from me showing you all of those little mistakes. So it goes to show that I had to work at that a little bit to help Loops say, hey, we're now going straight. Follow my body, follow my alignment. Don't be crooked. Keep everything following in a line. So double unilateral balance. Once again, I'm just checking to ensure that my own asymmetry issue is correct. Much, much better. You can see that her neck and her head are following in between her two front feet there. That was probably one of the best straight lines. But I myself had to really work at that because she wanted to kind of act like a pinball and bounce off my aids. And I wanted to instill in her brain that we are just walking a straight line. And here I'm just showing you without a lot of contact on the right and the left rein. If a rider were to just ride with their hands in the middle of the rein, a lot of your ride comes off of your seat balanced and your legs balanced. And there you can see she was just a little bit crooked, but not as bad as she was prior. And I'm going to walk through this again and just show you that your aids are paramount. So your seat, your leg, and your hand aids are huge when riding a straight line. So I hope this video helps. I want to thank Loops for sharing this video with me. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks everybody for watching.